We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a special rant on Brexit and why I am really worried about what could possibly happen with all this. Oh no. So, today I want to talk about Brexit. I'm aware that that's one of those subjects that, if you're in Britain, you're probably a little bit tired of hearing about it. But it's all about to come to a T, and if I don't get this off my chest right now, I'm gonna I'm gonna be hating myself for it. So, Brexit. What are we on? 16 days. 16 days, and we'll either have left the European Union, have explicitly not left it, or be in some kind of very hard-fought limbo period where an extension's been bought. But either way, some steps are going to be made by that point in time. Odds are, realistically, we're going to have a result one direction or another within the next few days, and the rest is just going to be paperwork time. And I think what's actually going to happen is, at this point, we're going to hit a no-deal Brexit. I'm aware that we've already had a vote saying that we won't get one, but it's the important thing to remember. A no-deal Brexit is pretty much the default state. If Britain fails to secure a safe exit from the EU, we just get a no-deal Brexit. That's what happens by default. That horrifies me. And we know roughly what the possibilities are. The most likely ones being, as I said, delay. So a delay is not super likely. The EU have already said that they need a damn good reason for us to be providing that we'd actually consider that. And so then we've got exiting with a deal. Again, not likely. We've seen the government's deal been rejected 3 times already. That's you don't just have that happen. It's that means that there is something majorly wrong with it that the members of Parliament are refusing to allow. Now, some amount of that's going to be politicking, obviously, but whatever the reasons are, that's not going to sort itself out in the next 16 days. Now, if we do get an extension, we might be able to sort out a good treaty on the way out. Fine, that'll be great. But 16 days for a new deal, that's just not going to happen. Option 3 is then the collapse. So, no deal, or crashing out, or whatever you want to call it. We leave the European Union. Our borders to the European Union get massively stalled on day 1, back to pure international trading terms. And I don't feel it's over-exaggerating to say people will probably die if that happens. Now, I'm not talking about, there won't be the sudden bullets on the streets. People just get murdered because, oh my god, Brexit is the worst thing ever. It's the simple logistics that the government already knows. If that happens, food logistics are going to become difficult. They've already been stockpiling emergency food for this sort of situation. And they won't be doing that sort of thing lightly. Now, what that means is, if you think of the cascading effects, if people who could afford to buy can no longer afford to buy, those who can't afford to buy are going to be driven out of buying because they can't afford it even more. So already stretched food banks are going to be hit. The food cooperatives, they're going to be suddenly having so much more demand placed on them. Supermarkets, if they struggle to get their supply lines restored, they're going to be running out of stock. Now, all of the parties have prepared for this, but if preparations aren't sufficient, which I don't see any reason to believe that they would be sufficient, then supplies are going to be cut. Now, that's not going to hit your everyday person. Your everyday person will be fine. It's the people who are already living on the raggedy edge. Those people who for the next paycheck to be disrupted can mean being out on the streets, that sort of thing. It's a really big deal to them. And it's not just food supplies that are going to be hit as well. Like there's various, there's pretty much any sort of company that deals with abroad is going to be hit by these changes. There's a handful that treaties have already been put in place for. Fair enough. That good for you. Good for you. But even businesses that purely trade internally trade ultimately with companies that trade externally. So the obvious things being, so say the company I work for example, we currently have no real contracts outside of this country. Fine. But our suppliers and our customers do. That's both directions. So if our customers collapse, obviously we have problems. Now a lot of our contracts are council based, those shouldn't be directly an issue, but they are going to be squeezed even tighter with the issues with budgets, and the tax income is going to be problematic. Then we have the private contractors, multinationals. Those are going to be heavily hit because their operations in multiple countries are going to be strained, shall we say. And then on the flip side, when we talk about the people we are buying from, you have the same set of problems framed very differently. So if, for example, our stationery suppliers collapses, yes, we'd find another one pretty quickly, but that's an instant cost. We have to go out, go through supply chain analysis, figure out who's going to be an affordable place to buy from. And that might be easy. I know there are companies like Amazon are probably going to end up booming because of it, but equally, we're not going to get the same deals as we used to. So that's going to have at least some impact. And then there's like stock supply chains. So we manufacture some electronics. If we're unable to get parts from abroad during this transition period, then again, no parts, no products, no jobs. No jobs means unable to pay for food. Unable to pay for food, hopefully you'll survive, but yeah. And it's not to say that everyone's going to be hit by this. Some people will get they'll get out scot-free. Like, there are some people who's, due to an absolute roll of the dice, even in the worst case situations, some people right on the raggedy edge will be absolutely fine. The support will turn out to be just around the place that they need. Great, good for you. But yeah, some people are going to be hit by the absolute worst of it on the other end. Like every single, like people running multiple jobs to feed their family. Some of those people, well, it's entirely possible that every job they have will collapse. And at that point, your entire life has been shattered. And I'm not going to say that the situation we're in is unnecessary. Absolutely, people voted for this. Fine. That's great. But the way it's been implemented, the level of uncertainty, the failure to come up with a decent strategy for exit, that's what's led to this problem. And yeah, that's not just going to go away on its own. Anyway, to collapse back into the list of possible ways this could go, I think number 4, based on my existing numbering, hopefully. See if I get that right. So number 4 is we stay in. But equally, that won't be on the same terms anymore. Like, officially, yeah, absolutely, we're still a member of the EU. Good for everyone. But what we'll have is that phantom of we almost left. Now there are two extremes and a massive gulf in between, that anything in that valley could exist. So extreme number 1 is Britain is permanently estranged from the core of the EU. So it's the idea that, well, everyone knows we wanted to leave, so why would they respect us for that? And fine, yeah, that could happen. If that does happen, again, it's the individual trade agreements between countries, because you've got to remember, countries aren't whole entities. They have aspects of being an entity on their own. They have a collective will, but there's also the individuals on the ground level. So if say you're from random European country number 3, one of your friend's businesses has collapsed due to the uncertainty caused by the idea of Brexit. Now, at least I'm going to address this as if I were that person. I would be more hesitant to deal with Britain on two main levels. Firstly, because I don't like them anymore. They've caused damage to my friends. That's just unfair. And secondly, that it's on a pure risk basis. If we know that Britain has already proved itself a risky trading partner, then why would you risk your business and your money? That's ultimately what it is. It's on a personal level. You're taking risks to deal with this. And that'll also apply on like a corporate level, because with the business entities, they need to protect and increase profits. And if it's demonstrable that Britain is not a viable way of doing that, then they can't keep doing it. Like shareholders would revolt against you. You'd be prevented from doing your job effectively. And it's, even if you're of a polite mind and you want to keep things together in that situation, when you've got those sorts of pressures behind you, it's just never going to be the same. And admittedly, on the other hand, there is the beautiful possibility that I'm hoping for, I don't think it's terribly likely, that businesses and politicians within the EU want to welcome Britain back into the fold, is the best description I've got of it. So there's almost an embracing British culture again, embracing British businesses, trying to hold that relationship so firm that Britain not only couldn't, but would never want to leave again. And that's the sort of thing that would potentially look to hold Europe together as well. Because if you can demonstrate that, no, we don't think badly of you because of your foolish decision, but you're welcome here with whatever trading you wish to do, and all that other benevolent crap. Though I don't think it's terribly likely, it is a possibility. And then there's somewhere in the middle of that is probably where we're actually going to get hit. So, say some businesses embrace Britain, some businesses shun Britain, and we end up in a position where some things are going to collapse, some things are going to boom. But the main thing it's going to do is create uncertainty, and uncertainty is the business killer. That means that at least some businesses are going to end up collapsing because they don't know what the hell to do. Having been in a few places already where this sort of thing happens, the enemy of a long-term working business strategy is reaction. If you can make a long-term plan and stick to it, you can have success in business. I mean, there are obviously going to be problems in terms of, like, if your plan doesn't fold out, if your vision turns out just to be worthless, then yeah, fine, the business has failed. That happens. But if you end up moving from point to point, extreme to extreme in your business, then you can never be as successful as you could otherwise be. It sort of averages out, and instead of having strengths and weaknesses that are distinct, you end up with a set of mild weaknesses across the board, where, yeah, okay, so no individual thing's going to bankrupt you, but you can end up losing a lot of the strength that could make you truly successful in that time. But yeah, I guess the thing I'm trying to get across is I feel there is a lot of risk. We're still in a position right now, even despite the no deal vote today, we're still not out of the woods yet, and we're still in dangerous territory. Anyway, thank you for watching. I know this is a bit of a deviation from my usual, but I just needed to get that stuff off my chest. And in all fairness, I did, back in the very beginning, say that I might deviate from gaming a bit. And we'll get back to normal content soon, I'm sure. Anyway, thanks for watching, and like and subscribe and all that happy stuff.